All right, so every 6 months, the venture capital firm Andreessen Horowitz drops this report. And you can basically think of it as a report card for the entire consumer AI industry. Their latest one just landed, and boy, it shows how much has changed. We're talking major power shifts after a year of just breakneck change.
So what's the big headline here? Well, it looks like the wild, chaotic gold rush phase, it's kind of over. You know, those previous lists were just wild. They were full of these weird, surprising apps you'd never even heard of, suddenly shooting into the top 50. But now, it really feels like things are starting to, well, settle down. Yeah, the dust is clearing, and we're seeing some clear leaders really digging in and solidifying their positions. So, that brings us to the big question, right? The one we're really going to dig into here. In this new, more stable world, who's actually winning? Okay, so to really get a grip on where we are now, we've got to look back at where we were. We're calling this whole thing the Great Settling. And it's pretty amazing how much the landscape has shifted in just 6 short months.
And wow, the contrast between then and now is just stark. I mean, 6 months ago, the market was pure chaos. Everyone was still reeling from the Deepseek moment. Remember that? When this little-known reasoning model just briefly blew past the giants? AI video was just starting its hype cycle, and vibe coding, using plain English to build apps, was this super tiny niche. Now, flash forward to today, and the big language models are totally in control, and those once niche categories, they're now major forces to be reckoned with.
All right, let's kick things off at the very top of the food chain. This is where the biggest names in tech are battling it out. And really, it's a story of one dominant king and one very, very ambitious challenger. So, if you just look at web traffic, the power dynamic is crystal clear. ChatGPT is still the undisputed king. There's just no question about it. Now, Google's Gemini has clawed its way up to the number 2 spot, which is a huge deal, don't get me wrong, but there is still an absolute chasm between them.
And if you want to put a number on that chasm, check this out. Gemini is pulling in just 12% of ChatGPT's web traffic. Just think about that for a second. For every 10 people who go to ChatGPT, only about 1 is visiting its closest competitor. That is just an incredible testament to the power of getting there first.
But, and this is a big but, you can't count Google out. Not by a long shot. Yeah, Gemini is a distant second, but if you only look at that one app, you're missing the bigger picture. See, Google's real strength is its portfolio strategy. They've got 4 different products in the top 50. We're talking Gemini, of course, but also Google AI Studio, Notebook LM, which people seem to really love, and even Google Labs, their little playground for experiments. It's a full frontal assault on the market.
Okay, so once you get past those top 2 giants, the field gets way more interesting. We've got a few key challengers who are really shaking things up, both here in the West and across the globe.
First up, let's talk about Grok. It's making some serious gains. It's already number 4 on the web, which is huge, but it's the mobile growth that's really eye-popping. Usage jumped almost 40% in July alone, and that seems to be driven by 2 things. 1, the release of the much more powerful Grok 4 model, and 2, the introduction of AI companion avatars, which included some, let's just say, not safe for work options.
All right, next up, let's tackle China's influence, because this is way more nuanced than you might think. When you look at the top 50 mobile apps, a ton of them come from China. But here's the twist. Are they actually built for the Chinese market? For the most part, nope. They're built in China, but they're made to be exported globally.
This stat right here tells the whole story. So get this, 22 of the top 50 mobile apps were developed in China, but only 3 are mainly used there. This points to a really clear strategy, right? Chinese developers are becoming absolute masters at building products, like all those popular video and photo editors you see, specifically for a global audience. They're even targeting markets in countries where the apps themselves are blocked. It's pretty wild.
Okay, now for what I think is one of the most exciting trends in this whole report. Remember vibe coding? These are the tools that let literally anyone build new apps just by describing what they want in plain English. 6 months ago, this was barely a blip on the radar. Today, it has absolutely exploded into a dominant force.
And what's crazy is we're already seeing a changing of the guard in this space. Bolt, which was an early player that just barely squeaked onto the list last time, has already fallen off. And in its place, Lovable and Replit have just surged, jumping from the sidelines right into the heart of the top 50.
And the scale we're talking about here is just immense. Seriously, this isn't some niche hobby anymore.
The top 4 vibe coding apps are now pulling in over 50 million combined monthly web visits. That is a massive, massive audience of people who are leveling up from just using AI to actually building with it.
But here's what's even more important. This trend has real staying power. We're not just talking about clicks. Credit card data shows that people aren't just trying these platforms once and then bouncing. No, they're sticking around. They're building more complex stuff, and they're actually increasing how much they spend over time. This is a real sustainable business.
So, okay, we've seen the titans battling it out at the top, we've looked at the global movers and shakers, and we've talked about the incredible rise of the AI builders. But what does this whole report card tell us about what's next? The next big thing in AI? Well, the answer might be hiding in plain sight.
When you scan the list, you see all the familiar names, the chatbots, the image generators, the coding assistants. But there is one entry on this list that just stands out. It's the most surprising, and honestly, it might be the most predictive of where we're all headed.
And that entry is a company called Manus, sitting there at number 31. So why is this so important? It comes down to one thing. It is the only pure-play, general-purpose AI agent on the entire list. This isn't just another tool that answers your questions. No, this is a platform designed to take action, to complete complex tasks for you.
The fact that a general agent like this is already ranked so high, well, that suggests there's this huge untapped demand just waiting. It really leaves us with a fascinating question to chew on. 6 months from now, when the next report card comes out, will Manus be even higher? Will other agents have joined it on the list? Are we quietly entering the age of AI agents? I guess we'll just have to wait and see.